My name is Sarah Harold, and I'm the director of the Southern Management Leadership Program. I'm also the Ladies First champion at the Dingman Center, and it's wonderful to bring both organizations together as partners. This is the third annual Being Black in Entrepreneurship event. It was an initiative started by a group of Black Terps students and alumni, and we're thankful to see it continue with this all-star panel. Before we get underway, I'd like to take a moment to thank the people who made tonight possible. In particular, I appreciate the efforts of Haley Mates, Nazia Khan, and Holly Diarmond. Please join me in a virtual round of applause for these talented and hardworking staff members. Now, I have the pleasure of introducing the moderator for the evening, Sydney Parker. Sydney started Aurora Tights while she was a student at the University of Maryland, along with co-founders and fellow UMD students, Jasmine Sneed and Imani Rickerby. Aurora is an athletic brand that designs apparel for performers of all skin tones and sizes in order to help all athletes perform in color. Sydney and her team participated in the Dingman Center's Terp Startup Accelerator Summer Program in 2018, and then won the grand prize at Pitch Dingman competition in 2019. She currently serves as both the Chief Marketing Officer of Aurora, as well as an account manager for Meta, formerly Facebook. She also serves on the Dingman Center Young Alumni Founders Council. We are so fortunate that Sydney has remained an engaged and proud Terp alumni since graduation, and we're excited to have her moderate this discussion today. Welcome, Sydney.
Thank you so much, Sarah. It's again great to see you. Just a little side note, Sarah was one of the many people who encouraged me to even enter the world of entrepreneurship. So thank you again for the kind introduction. And thank you to the Dingman Center and Southern Management Leadership Program for organizing this discussion today. I encourage everyone, if you feel comfortable, to turn on your camera for video. We have some special guests today, and we would like to have this be a more engaging conversation. So we would love to see some faces. As you're hopefully all aware, February is Black History Month. The contributions of Black people to the world, and most definitely the United States of America, are enormous, not just from our physical existence, but also the fruits of that labor, which set into motion much of the global policy that continues to ripple through multilateral and bilateral agreements, peace treaties, and trade and investments and capitalism. There are also the contributions through innovation and creation of businesses to make things faster, better, more effective and efficient, cleaner, and more healthy for humans and the environment. And this is why I'm so excited to be here today with two entrepreneurs that are doing just that, making a better world through business. So today we are joined by panelist Audrey Owasam, 2018, an alum and founder and CEO at Noble Uprising, and Andre Blackman, a 2005 alum who was the founder and CEO of Onboard Health. So a round of applause for our panelists today. And yeah, I'm really excited to introduce you to them. So first up, Audrey Owasam, or Audrey Awesome, as many affectionately call her. I know I called her that on campus, is the founder and CEO of Noble Uprising, a 501c3 nonprofit organization that serves, educates, and empowers women to overcome hardship through socially responsible programs and resources necessary to enhance their overall quality of life. As an anti-poverty advocate, Audrey has pioneered various initiatives that provide essential resources to women. She has collaborated with several community organizations, including the Prince George's County Family Justice Center, Lakeview Apartments, and Interfaith Works to help execute her vision of a society where every woman has good access to health, affordable housing, and sustainable employment. Welcome, Audrey. Next, we have Andre, who is the founder and CEO of Onboard Health, a specialized executive search and advisory firm focused on creating a more inclusive future of health. A pioneering strategist with deep ties across the healthcare innovation, startup, and digital strategy landscapes, Andre is dedicated to building the future of health through an equity lens. His work and insights have been featured in outlets such as Business Insider, Fortune, Forbes, NPR, CIO, Newsweek, US News, and World Report. He was recently also named a Fortune Magazine 2020 40 Under 40 in Healthcare. So we are in the presence of some really amazing people tonight. So please give it up for them both. And yeah, let's get to know the two panelists that we have today. I have some quick questions to start us off. So be light on your feet or on your minds. First, would love to know, who are both of your favorite Black entrepreneurs? And I guess I'll kick it off to Audrey.
My favorite Black entrepreneur is this lady called now Dr. Janice Bryant Howroyd. And JBH was, she was the first Black woman to build a $1 billion company, Act One Group. And so I've had the opportunity to work with her, and I just admire her drive, her ambition, and her style. So I think that she's my, for me, she's my favorite Black entrepreneur.
I love it. First billionaire. I love that. We got to speak that into existence.
Yes, claim it.
Claim it. And Audrey, what about you? Who's your favorite Black entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean, that's so hard. I mean, I think, just thinking back over the past several years, I think Tristan Walker, he was one of the first employees over at Foursquare, which is kind of like a social app that was around like location-based, check-ins and that sort of thing too. And then he started Walker and Company, which is kind of like a skincare, hair grooming brand that was, aimed at, men of color, and now has expanded that, across, men and women and things of that nature too, and just kind of created this kind of product brand that was focused on a lot of the kind of, underrepresented skin tones and things of that nature in the common market. So, he's just, and, apart from what he's built, he's really just kind of taken a big lead around the narrative related to entrepreneurship and startups and that sort of thing too. So I'll say Tristan for right now.
I like that. I'm trying to remember if I've ever come across his name, but that sounds amazing, the work that he's doing. So that's really cool. All right, so the next question I have for you all is, what is the first thing you do in the morning? What sets you up for success? And I'm going to kick this first off to Andre.
Yeah, Andre, right? So I drink like a glass of water just to like get myself refreshed and up, because I am not a morning person by any means. And so when I do get up in the morning, like my brain is just already just kind of thinking about a bunch of different things. And so one of the things that I do to just kind of ground myself is something that I came across a few years ago called Morning Pages. And basically, you just kind of open up a notebook or a piece of paper or something like that and just kind of start writing down just kind of the stream of consciousness that you have going on. And sometimes it might surface a couple of things that you might want to chew on for the rest of the day, but it really just kind of jumpstarts me, at least, to start just kind of being in my own kind of self, my own body and mind before the onslaught of emails and all those kind of things. So Audrey knows what I'm talking about. And actually both of you do, as far as entrepreneurship, and everybody wants a piece of your time and mind share and all that kind of stuff. So starting with that usually helps a lot for me.
I love that.
For me, I would say, if I'm being completely transparent, I typically snooze the alarm first and a couple of more times before I start off my day. But in the morning, I start with prayer. Prayer is really important to me. Starting my day off grounded in the word is important. And I have been learning to say affirmative words to myself every day. And I've been reading this book. It's called The Maxwell Daily Reader. And essentially it has like brief excerpts every day on leadership. And it leaves me with like a thought and something to consider throughout the day. And so I would say that this has been really helpful for me, especially growing as a leader, and helping me be grounded in everything that I have to do. And then, like Andre says, the emails start pouring in, and I have to do that for a couple of hours. But that's my morning routine.
Great tips all around, especially in terms of the morning starting off with reflection instead of just pouring into a digital environment. That's the theme I'm taking from here. Like, take a moment, first reflect, and then go about your day, as well as health. That water piece is huge. So thank you for that. Okay, so another quick question: are you a beach or a mountains person? And I'm going to kick this over to Audrey. Audrey.
I'm a beach person. I We went to Miami and it was for work, but I had the opportunity to go early in the morning and just the sound of the waves crashing and like that time of just peace. If I could wrap it up in one word, it would be peace. I'm definitely a beach person.
Nice.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'll say I'm definitely a mountains person. I mean,
Great.
just something about just kind of being out in the woods and that sort of thing too. I mean, I'm in North Carolina. So, like Asheville, North Carolina is not too far from here, and the Blue Ridge Mountains, that sort of thing too. So, but still like hearing the birds chirping, getting some fresh air, like that calms me down. So yeah, I love that environment for sure.
That's beautiful. I'm assuming you like hiking too, possibly, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, a couple years ago, I went out to the Aspen Ideas Festival in Colorado, and I was hooked. I mean, just kind of being, I mean, out there's this place called the Maroon Bells, which y'all might kind of know, like on screensavers, you see that big lake and like the mountains and the trees. Like it's one of the most photographed places, I think, in the
Yes.
country. Yeah, and so that's close to where Aspen is. So love it.
So cool. Well, it's cool that we have both perspectives here. You guys are making a great fight for either or. All right. So when you hit a major milestone, as the next lightning round question, what is your favorite way to celebrate it? And Andre, I'd love for you to answer first.
Yeah, I like to eat. So dinner
Foodie.
at like a yeah, like a local restaurant or something, like a place I haven't maybe tried before. If like my team is in town, and it's definitely a corporate win. Definitely kind of going and finding a place that we can get some good food. And then I came across this app called Turo, Turo, where you can actually kind of
Yes.
rent, yes, yeah, like rent some cars. And I'm a car person, so finding some really fun cars, I'll say, on the Turo app has been another kind of thing.
Okay, so I'm not gonna lie. I thought that this was the app that actually split the bill between you and your friends. So that's
Oh,
different than the app I was thinking about. But
sorry,
that's still
yeah.
sounds like a really cool.
Yep.
Either way, that's pretty cool. And then Audrey, what is your favorite way to celebrate a major milestone?
That's interesting. Yeah, it's the same as Andre's. I lots of food. I start with myself. So I just recently had a win and I ordered like a whole bunch of sushi. And
Nice.
lady's like, "Oh, you're having a party." And I'm like, "No, it's just for me." Lots and lots and lots of food. And Toro is a really great idea. I've only heard about it with the like people renting their cars on that side, but I've never thought about it in the sense of experiencing the cars. So that's a really I haven't done that yet. So maybe after the food, I'll incorporate that, Andre.
Yes, CEO it up, find like a nice like luxury SUV, drive that around for a couple of days. Yeah, you'll get into it.
I need to take that advice. And yes, I see some sushi lovers in the chat. Haley, if anybody else is, please drop whatever food you use to celebrate in the chat too. Okay, so one last lightning round question before we move into some of the deeper questions of tonight. And it's, how do you describe entrepreneurship in one sentence? I know that's hard.
I would have to say action.
Okay. Point blank, period, action. I agree.
Like entrepreneurs are doers. And so for me, the sentence is, entrepreneurs are doers, action.
Snaps. I love that. Andre, you have to follow it up now.
Yes, I know. I mean, the word journey comes into my mind. I mean, I've just, it's one of those kind of things where, it's never a straight line. And so for me in entrepreneurship, like you have an idea, you get super hype, and like you take those first couple steps and you're like, whoop, wait, no, okay, let's try this, right? And then it's always the journey. And I feel like it's like a journey that has no real finish line, but what it does is really kind of reveal who you are through the process. And so, there's always going to be things that go left, that come out of nowhere. But I would definitely say like journey would be a word, and it reveals who you are on that journey for sure.
Easy. No, I think both are very, very true at the exact same time. With the action piece, and then also realizing that this journey is definitely not a straight line. It's not up and to the right. It never will be. Well, sorry, it hopefully will be at one point in time. But yeah, I think those are both very, very good ways to segue into some of the main questions that we have today. And so whoever wants to answer this one first, I'd love to first just think about like what were some defining life experiences for you, and how did those moments lead you to begin into the ventures that you're in right now? Because you all are both tackling in your respective ventures some pretty big problems in the world.
I'll jump on in. For me, so it's kind of cliche, but college. I mean, I landed at Maryland, with an aerospace engineering kind of major. And, for me, I think at that time, Maryland was like the 4th largest campus in the country. So, the whole like experience of just being in such a huge place with so many different options, that's entrepreneurship. I mean, like you have so many options and you have to choose a pathway, right? And then you have all these collaborative opportunities along the way. But college really helped me to just appreciate all those kind of different things. And then in 2007, I started writing at the Pulse and Signal blog while still in the DC, Maryland area, and just kind of writing about my thoughts and insights around the future of healthcare with technology. This is when social media was just getting hot. Really just kind of created a platform for myself. When you talk about things and share your thoughts, people get interested in it. And that's what really kind of started a lot of it for me as well, which also ultimately led to like my first, consulting contract, and the rest is history.
Amazing. No, I love that, because you're touching on thought leadership being the first part of your journey. And it seems like you found a community which led you to where you were today. Actually, I'm very interested in the same space, in terms of, tackling such a big problem in terms of catering to women who are not always catered for. What I know you've probably talked about it before, but I'm interested to hear again with me, but I'm interested to hear again, like what really inspired you to get into that space.
Yeah, I always say, and this is funny, but it's really true, right? I probably won't be where I am today or doing Noble Uprising if I did not participate in the Hillman Entrepreneurs Program or the Southern Management Leadership Program. And I always say that if Ms. Razavi didn't get her coffee that faithful day, I won't be here. And so really it happened with like, I didn't have any knowledge of the program. And I was in the same location as her. She was getting her coffee and she helped me find where I was going. And she said, when you're done there, come on over. And it's with that obedience to her request that landed me where I am here. In terms of my journey and why I chose to do Noble Uprising, I always, Noble started with like a thought of mine. I had the question of why are individuals in our community experiencing such traumatic situations and realities, and what can I do about it? And it's with this mentality that helped me to pursue doing something to serve my community, which then led to where I am now in creating Noble Uprising. And what's interesting is that as I look back on my journey, I realized that like programs like the Hillman Entrepreneurs Program, or now I have to get used to saying Southern Management Leadership, but the Southern Management Leadership Program, and going through that program, I used the program and my minor in entrepreneurship to create the business plan for Noble. And so while we had assignments and stuff for school, I will use that as an opportunity to create our marketing plan, strategies on how to tackle certain problems. And it's so interesting, so we launched the One Heart Project, which was we partnered with homeless shelters to teach the women in the homeless shelters career readiness skills. We received funding from Walmart. We received a congressional citation of excellence, all of that. But what was really impactful for me and what was the deciding factor for me pursuing this long term was when I got the opportunity to hear the stories of our women and interacting with them. And I realized that I was doing my that work more than I was doing my homework. And so then I was like, I can pursue this for a really long time. That level of fulfillment that I hadn't felt in a long time. And so I consulted with my professors on how to create Noble Uprising, and we are where we are right now. In terms of why I created Noble as a nonprofit versus a for-profit, it was interesting. I consulted my professors and they were asking why a nonprofit? And people typically start with a for-profit business, get established, and then give back using their nonprofits, right? And it's interesting because, we learn in business school that the bottom line for any business is profit, right? Whereas for nonprofits, the bottom line is impact. And so when I gauged that, I really wanted to start with my full focus being impact over profit. And I have learned that when you bring value to the lives of the clients, customers, partners, of course, the money will come, right? But I want the focus to be impact. So those were some key life experiences and defining moments that led me to where I am now.
Incredible. Yeah, it harkens back to something I actually learned from Sarah. Sarah's one of the first people who told us as well at Aurora Tights that any business that's not thinking about their social impact as well as their profit moving forward is not going to exist in many, many years to come, because they're both so intangibly tied and important, and it's what keeps your business relevant. And what I think was also really important about both the things that you two said was that you started these ventures in college, like where a lot of the people who are currently on this call are here today. Like it wasn't after college, it wasn't in high school. And surprisingly, even though this would have been completely fine, it wasn't even necessarily from your families. It was really from programs and experiences that you experienced in your day-to-day life at school. And that is really beautiful. So thank you for that. That brings us to our next question, which is, did you always see yourself as entrepreneurial? And if so, what were the moments that made it super clear on your journey?
I can start with this one. I won't say I always saw myself as entrepreneurial per se. I just knew that I always had a desire to create something. And this kind of goes back to like my mom, right? So brief Audrey history. I'm from Cameroon, which is a West African country, and I was born there. And so I grew up seeing my mother do exactly that, right? Create something. She noticed that like in our village or in our community, a lot of individuals had to trek long miles to go to the nearest pharmacy. And so she created a pharmacy in our neighborhood for individuals to use. She created a pig pen. She had a pig pen, a rice mill, a chicken coop, and her chickens were like the biggest in the neighborhood, all organic, right? No steroids. And so, cool. Right? So I grew up in that environment, right? That creative environment, and seeing her be a go-getter in that. And so I always had that mentality. And so that was kind of like, that was what I used, I believe, or later as I'm reflecting now, that propelled me to where I am now, seeing a gap and a challenge in my community and doing something about it. And what I've realized is that when I started Noble Uprising, like I said, it started off as just a project and a desire that I had to serve women in our community. And it started small, but then I realized that that small gesture blossomed into something that's really, really huge and really impactful, right? The stories of our noble women and the impact that not only that we're having not only in their lives, but also in the lives of their families and so on. And I've realized, I always say this, when you do what is necessary and what is possible, suddenly you're doing the impossible. And so, yeah, that's how it all started, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah, I love that. I love that quote.
I'm writing it down. I'm writing down notes.
Yeah, I know this is being recorded, so thank you. Do that on t-shirt for sure, Audrey. So I would say not so much about what Audrey mentions, that like I was always interested in creating and tinkering and things of that nature too, right? I'm half Jamaican, half Trinidadian, so so like the kind of the Caribbean vibes are very strong as far as the multi-potentialite aspects of like my family, and just everybody's doing something. And so I feel like there's a little bit of that already in my genes. But I always, like, when I first started, I was thinking like, okay, I was going to work at either NASA or NIH and just do some really cool stuff. But once I started going out to like conferences and creating content, writing on the blog, having these kind of consulting opportunities come in, like I really enjoyed the opportunity to have a vision and then to actually move forward on that vision with taking action, as Audrey mentioned at the beginning. And once again, like I just got really obsessed with the journey to be able to create something and see it through to fruition. And so I think it maybe didn't start that way, but that definitely kind of fell into it in a number of different opportunities.
I love that. And just even as a quick follow-up, like what did you see around your family? Really, what were some of the behaviors that, I know you talk about your family being a little bit entrepreneurial. What were some of the behaviors you picked up on that you brung into with your business?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say just a constant curiosity. Like one of my uncles is
Great.
a Marine, just like a Marine, then started like a driving business, just kind of driving notable people around in the DC, Maryland area, and transition to, other things as well, and so just like a constant, I'm interested in that. Let's check it out, that sort of thing too, not being really afraid to fail. And that's I think that's another big aspect of entrepreneurship, is that you have to keep going. You might have some setbacks, but there's a why there.
That's beautiful. I love the curiosity piece. I didn't even realize how tied to entrepreneurship that is, especially when discovering more about your customer, more about their problems. So I want to transition a little bit and talk about, what were some of the biggest failures that you all have experienced in your entrepreneurship journey, and what did you do to get through it? And did you learn anything that still serves you and keeps you pushing today? Because while there aren't any failures, I know that I usually look at failures as a learning opportunity. My dad says that's either a lesson or a blessing. But what were some of those lessons, and what were the biggest moments that taught you them?
For me, I can answer this first, Sydney. For me, it was kind of like how we've been talking, right? I was a young entrepreneur, a student entrepreneur at that, and I love to overwhelm myself. But what I regret the most, and I think was my biggest failure, was allowing my age to prevent me from being confident in certain rooms. And I realized that just that mentality prevented me from a lot of opportunities, from a lot of from being my best self in certain rooms. And in terms of how I overcame that, I've learned that I bring a fresh perspective as a young entrepreneur to the conversation, to certain rooms, something that someone who is more seasoned and maybe a bit more set in their ways may not. And I've also learned that what you think and what you say to yourself determines the extent of your success. And I learned to, overcome and master self first. And when doing that, I've learned that I can thrive in anything. And I'll give you an example. I did a pitch competition last year, late last year in December. And I remember I do pitch trainings. Like that's my steez, that's what I do. And I did when I prepared, and my preparation, the pitch was fantastic. It met all the criteria and everything. But when I got there, it was like, I was almost talking myself into being nervous. Like I got there and I was like, I'm nervous. And I said, yeah, you're very nervous. You're very nervous. And I just went down this like black hole of like being nervous. And when I went up to pitch, I realized that the nervousness, like in the middle of my pitch, I knew I was saying words and they were coming out, but I had a whole internal conversation with myself. Like, oh my gosh, I'm hearing my thoughts essentially. And I had to really snap out of it. And when I learned that, starting off being behind the podium, and when I became more confident and assured myself that, Audrey, you got this, I saw that, the delivery just came out better, and I was more interactive with the judges. And in that pitch competition, I've learned, that's just one instance, but I've learned that I need to first master self and learn to say what to filter what I say to myself in order to be more productive and more successful in that sense. I can also share how I was a terrible manager to my team initially as an entrepreneur, but I'll allow Andre to share his.
I don't even want to talk about my failures now. Like Audrey, that gem about mastering self, let's get into that. Tons of failures on my end. With what I'm building now with Onboard Health and recruiting and things of that nature, I'm not a recruiter by training. I have, an understanding of the network and the people in the healthcare innovation landscape. And I just jumped out there and decided to try it, right? And so even with that in mind, just kind of stumbling and tripping over, I would say one part early on in my entrepreneurial career is not trusting myself enough to make decisions. And that is a really critical aspect of entrepreneurship, is being decisive. Sometimes you have so many different people that are going to give you advice. And once again, just to Audrey's point, mastering yourself and just being confident in, making decisions, right? That's going to be a game changer, because what happens is you listen to the wrong people's filtered responses through their own lens, right? This is not their journey. This is your journey. And so, with that in mind, you kind of go off your pathway, because like Audrey was mentioning, some people put their fear onto you, their anxiety onto you, and you're like, oh yeah, maybe I should do that instead, right? Or maybe I should partner with this person. And then, you might get taken advantage of and things of that nature. And then you're like, okay, this was not the move. So I will definitely say that, just kind of harping back on mastering oneself and having that kind of decisive understanding, that we can talk all day about that. But I love that part as well, because a lot of this is an internal and oftentimes solo game. When the team is not there sometimes yet, you're doing everything. And so, being able to take care of yourself, that internal narrative, huge, but also your health and wellness, right? Sometimes some of us wake up in the morning, start scrolling through Instagram for 30 minutes, right? Nothing inherently wrong with that. But what that does is start changing the internal kind of dialogue in your head sometimes, when you start doing comparisons and things of that nature too. So we can talk all day about that, but I just want to really highlight that piece about, managing yourself first, for sure.
I love that theme, especially for how to even deal with quote unquote failure. And it's first checking in with yourself and how you talk to yourself about what just happened. One thing, I also work at Meta, and we have this thing called Fuel, and I never knew what it really was. It was about vision writing. I was like, what is this? But a big part of it was, what are the stories that you tell yourself on a consistent basis? Because we're constantly telling ourselves stories, which I didn't even realize was a thing. But think about it, you tell a story. When you're recounting what happened to your day, you're telling a story. When you're talking to yourself, you're telling a story. And often, a lot of times, if you're not catching it, these stories that you're saying to others and yourself can be very negative. Like Audrey, you convinced yourself that you were nervous, and that's something that you could truly, truly hone in on. But when we're telling ourselves positive stories, what if that pitch did go well? What if I don't listen to somebody who is telling me no, and instead I push forward through to the yes. In your example, Andre, I think that's where we build confidence, and before we let the outside world in, we're already grounding ourselves in some positiveness. Yes, and I see mindfulness is key. Thank you. So yes, I really, really wanted to make sure to highlight that. And also, mentorship is great, but I just cheated. I'm not gonna lie, I cheated the game myself. I used to be a solopreneur, but I just found some co-founders to help me make my decisions, but I'm still indecisive a lot. So something you both reminded me to be better at, and not just rely on my co-founders to show me the way. Okay, so moving forward, I wanted to ask, first, first a stat. According to Forbes, Black founders account for only 1% of venture capital funding. Let's get into it. I know we've heard this stat before, of which only 0.2% went to Black female founders. So that's the last part. How do you advise Black founders, just knowing this, to overcome the funding obstacle or even change these statistics in the future? And Andre, I'm interested to hear what you have to say first.
Yeah, I mean, so right now I'm running Onboard Health, which is, we're building a more diverse and inclusive workforce ecosystem to power the future of health. And so we have a lot of founders and startups. I've been an advisor for a couple of years, and also with Arlan Hamilton. If y'all don't know who Arlan Hamilton is of Backstage Capital, would definitely just kind of plug into the ecosystem that she is building. She has Backstage Capital, which is a venture fund that's dedicated to what she calls underestimated founders, right? These are, mostly like marginalized Black and brown founders, LGBTQ plus community, women of color, like everybody who, has been underestimated in the marketplace, and the founders that are part of those kind of groups, like that's who she's cutting checks for, right? So I've been a mentor over there for probably about the last 4 years, usually like in the healthcare, industry. So one of the things that really pops into my head is like, I'm really big on community. Surround yourself with others, that are other founders, but others that are just kind of in this entrepreneurial game as well. One of the things that I've been really excited about over the past few years is seeing the proliferation of venture funds that are dedicated to raising capital for underestimated founders, right? One of them, so there's Backstage Capital, and there's just a number like Black VC, Overlooked Ventures is a new one with Janine and Brandon, just kind of leaning into those kind of areas. Just know the landscape first and foremost too, because when I was first starting down the entrepreneurial journey, I never raised capital for my company. It was all kind of very kind of focused on service oriented work, but being in these kind of spaces as well. And that's a great list. Morgan DeBon with Blavity, like, what she's been doing. So I would definitely say, like, first start like building a community and surrounding yourself, just kind of know who the key players are, know who the names are, know who the platforms are, right? And then like know your business, right? Know your idea, know where you are at, what stage you're at, and how to match your stage, right? Whether you're a seed, right? Or like pre-seed, that sort of thing too. If it's just an idea, there are plenty of kind of, spaces and people and platforms that move into that. So, that's, and they're kind of working on behalf of founders to overcome some of those obstacles as well. So those are a couple different nuggets. And please reach out to me too, if I can help with any more of those kind of spaces, because this is really an issue that's near and dear to me right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Saying again, underscoring everything that Andre said, one of my favorite entrepreneurs likes to say your network is your net worth. And so as what I've learned during my time in Maryland was I participated in as many programs as possible. And it was through those programs that I was able to tap into different networks and learn and build relationships with the right people and build authentic relationships, because that can get a bit murky, but be authentically yourself and building relationships in those spaces. And the goal is to build strong relationships that when you're not in the room, there's someone there advocating for you. And like you said, like Andre said, participating in the programs, I've listed a few in the chat, but even programs like the Southern Management Leadership Program and the different, UMD has a whole bunch of programs, by the way. Ladies Founders First, I think we're still doing that. Dingman Center, the Do Good Institute, all of those programs. One of the first grants that we received was from University of Maryland, and one of the first major donors of Noble came from a program that we participated in Maryland. And so just be mindful of that. But I do want to add two more nuggets, like Andre said, strive to get a mentor. But I would also say get a sponsor, right? A sponsor is someone who can actively include you in their networks. And so they'll go out of their way to like introduce you to different people to help you advance your business and your career. And so whether or not you're pursuing entrepreneurship or not, I think that you need a sponsor who will help put you in different rooms and different environments that you wouldn't have otherwise. And I've also learned to be a sponsor or a mentor to someone else. And so kind of like going back to the statistic, right? How do you make sure that this improves is by providing that same service, or allowing an emerging entrepreneur, someone who is coming before after you, be in those same rooms, right? Not go through the same pain points and challenges that you experience, especially if you have the ability to development and change that. And so, yeah, I would say, like Andre said, participate in programs, learn to network and build effective relationships, get a sponsor, and be a sponsor or a mentor to someone else.
You hit all key roles. Both of you did. And Andre, I am just jealous because I'm a huge stan of Arlen Hamilton. So, that's amazing that, you know, you're already a part of that network, advising people on how to get involved with Backstage Capital, but so many different funds. Audrey, thank you so much for dropping all of those resources into the chat. Please copy and paste everybody who's here. And I just have to double tap that. Same for Aurora, our first big investor came from the University of Maryland network that we had built. And it's not a game. Like, people will listen to you when you step up and you put that energy forward, especially at the University of Maryland. So double tapping every single thing that you all said. We are moving into a space where I'd love for people in the chat to be starting to put in some questions for us to ask Andre and Audrey. And while we give people time to ask some questions in the chat, I have one last question for you all. And it's something that is something I ask myself every day, which is, what's the end goal? How do you define a successful exit, whether for this venture that you're currently a part of or a future venture that you're already thinking of?
I mean, I don't really see like an end goal necessarily for, like, you know, Onboard Health. I mean, other than, you know, making it the #1 destination for those who want to apply their skill sets and their passion to build, you know, an equitable future of health. So, you know, more of like, you know, the programming and community, and just really, you know, connecting individuals, equipping them with the resources that they need to understand, you know, how the future of health is being built and how they can, you know, either, you know, gain opportunities from their career perspective at these companies. There's just a proliferation right now in the mental health and tech landscape, food sustainability, you know, the built environment, which is like our cities, like our neighborhoods, those kind of things. Like, I just really want that to be the destination where oftentimes, you know, underrepresented and underestimated leaders and professionals are able to bring their A game into a community where they feel seen, they feel represented, and we completely get rid of this narrative around we don't know where to find ... you know, to join these leadership ranks. That's the whole reason why I started this, is that, you know, we're seeing, especially if we're talking about entrepreneurship, we're seeing millions of dollars being poured into these kind of companies, you know, and for health, particularly if we're talking about things like the social determinants of health, right? You know, where we live, where we work, where we play, how we eat, that sort of thing too. If the leadership ranks are not representative of the communities that we're supposed to be building products and services for, then obviously, you know, things are going to tank and go the opposite direction. And so, you know, for me, you know, it's kind of like the why this is so important, is because, especially in the last 2.5 years, right, we've seen the devastation, we've seen the cracks, you know, across our society in so many different ways, especially when it relates to, you know, healthcare and impact. And so, you know, the end goal is really to just kind of create this, you know, groundswell of leaders and individuals who want to bring their skill sets into one of the most important parts of, I think, our lifetime right now.
Yeah, that's good, Andre. For me, I would say for me, it's to leave a legacy that has a positive impact on the lives of others. And I think that, you know, with your vision, Andre, it's doing exactly that. In terms of, I just want to do a shameless plug. So this year, I wanted to be more intentional with sharing my network and sharing the same resources and the same experiences and providing opportunities to individuals who were in the same situation as I was, a young entrepreneur trying to figure out life and build a business. And so this year with some of my other friends who are founders and entrepreneurs themselves, we're launching a mentorship program in June, and it's specifically for emerging entrepreneurs and the next generation of leaders and change makers. So there are a lot of programs out there that help you develop your business and your idea and everything, but we want to focus on developing the next generation of leaders, developing you, helping you understand your why and build your legacy. And so the program it's like a three-pronged approach. First, developing you as a leader, an opportunity for you to face yourself, even going back to your childhood, learning how to cultivate good habits and learning your why and your leadership and communication style. And then we're helping you build your brand, right? We have a photo shoot where, and in addition to other things, right? But helping you develop your brand as a leader. And then of course, helping you to cultivate strong relationships with engaging in hands-on experiences. And we'll have an in-person celebration at the end. So if you want any additional information about this mentorship program, feel free to email me. I'll drop it in my in the chat. But for me, that is what the exit or the end goal is for me, right? Having a positive impact on the lives of individuals in my community and the next generation of individuals who will tackle more challenging situations than I would.
Just realized I was on mute, but both of those are way better than I want to make a stack and leave out from this world. So I'm inspired by the legacy that you both want to leave, but also that you want to keep the things that you're doing going. So we do have a lot of different questions in the chat, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to do this because I love that some people ask both of you like questions for you. So I'd love to first start off with those, if that's okay. But first, you, Andre, what would you say to the students that want to tap into an industry they aren't majoring in?
That's a great question. And literally like why I created Onboard Health right now, like whether or not you have a background in healthcare or public health or not, we want you to bring your skill sets and your passion to the future of health. I would say, once again, I index on people, right? Who are the leaders, who are the change makers that are in that industry, whether that's fashion, whether that's, social impact, education, right? Like who are the key leaders that are creating things, in that industry, and learn about them. But then also like we have so many, conferences and events that are, circling around these kind of things. Like if you're interested in, tapping into those kind of different industries, I'm sure there's countless, industry related events that are happening. Attend one, what I'm saying? Like, especially if there's an opportunity for you to attend maybe as like a student or something like that. A lot of these industries are looking for that next generation anyway. So, there's definitely opportunities there to like, so sync up once again with a community that's around that, the leaders that are working on it and just learn as much as you can about the industry. But once again, to Audrey's point, like action, right? Like jump in there and start talking to people, getting those ideas going. So that's kind of what I would say about that.
Amazing. And then Audrey, I know that somebody also asked specifically to you and just to shout out SMLP as one of the sponsors of this event. What was your favorite thing about being a part of that program, AKA Hillman?
For me, it was the community that we created. Like the skills that we learned in class and all was great, but the community inside class and outside of class. So one of the first team members for Noble came from SNLP, or I think I said that right, but Hillman. It came from Hillman, right? And so I would say that it's definitely that, the community, but also the opportunity to participate in other events. So as a student in the Southern Management program, I got invitations to events that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise if I did not participate. Like we're talking club invitations. We're talking all these other great stuff. And so like I remember, it was like a Rotary Club, I believe, invitation that I participated in. And from there, we received, I think it was our lawyer who was able to look at our documents. And so, yeah, I would say the resources that were provided, and of course the community that we cultivated in the program.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Haley, we have one time for one more question. Is that okay? Okay, great. So but there's so many questions here. I'm like, how can I push them all into one? So I like this question by Bennett, because I think it's asked in a couple different ways, just about the early parts. I know both of you have been well within your entrepreneurial journey, but if you could pull back to maybe your first few months or your first year as an entrepreneur, what is something that you wish you knew? And I loved what, and I'm going to mess up Kamsiona, what she asked also in terms of, what did you learn from that first year or first action step that you might have taken with your business? Either of you, if whoever wants to talk first.
Yeah, I'll just jump in really quick, just going back to the whole wellness piece. I will say the first year, I just was not sleeping well. It was definitely one of those kind of things where I was just so focused on just doing everything. This is the long game. So let me just really reiterate that, right? I mean, when you go down the entrepreneurial path, I'm saying, like I said before, it's no real like end game. Like, even if you sell your company, you'll get that itch to like, maybe do investing or like start something else, right? And so the kind of most valuable aspect to like whatever you're building is yourself, right? And so this is what Audrey touched on earlier. So like my first year, those first couple months, I didn't sleep, right? I just had to do everything, and I wound up like in the ER, to be completely honest, right? From like, and that started like another probably 2 years of panic attacks. It can get ugly if you don't pay attention to yourself, if you don't have a support system. You cannot do it yourself, right? Whether you're a solopreneur or not, it's still not just you. So take care of yourself, right? Physically and mentally. Like, that would be something that I would definitely change.
That was good, Andre. For me, it would be like that belief in my abilities in myself, right? I've learned that things are only impossible until someone shows that it's possible. And so knowing that like you can be the first one to ... And when you touched on mental health and just wellness and all of that, super important. For me, it was when I was starting off, and like great stuff, accomplishments and all that, but I did it by myself. Like, I didn't invite my family members to certain things because I get so nervous with them being there. But I've learned that, man, I would have loved to have my family there and enjoying this win and this experience with them. And so now I'm being more intentional, and like with my speaking engagements and stuff like that, having my family members there. And like you said, I'm not the entrepreneur to like no sleep at all. Sleep is something I have it's high on my thing. So learning that, for entrepreneurship, it looks different for everyone. Do what works for you, and do what comes organically to you, and don't try to fit to someone else's image of what entrepreneurship should look like. I would say those two.
Thank you. Thank you both for being so honest about your experiences, authentic. Like, this is the real deal. This is it's not a pretty picture. I know people always talk about how entrepreneurship is so hard, but to especially hone in on the mental health wellness part of it, I feel like is especially important, and that it's okay. And I really appreciate both of you all for sharing your experiences today. So this has been a pleasure for me. Thank you so much, James Center, for inviting all of us. And Haley, I'll hand it off to you to close us out.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sydney. And thank you to our panelists for being here. And actually, I'm going to pass it to Holly DeArmond, who is the managing director of Digman. And she's going to provide just a couple closing words for us.
Yeah, thank you, Haley, and thank you, panelists. Audrey, Andre, thank you for sharing all these great nuggets with our students. They need the knowledge, they need the encouragement, and you brought it tonight. So thank you so much for sharing your journey. And Sydney, I'm going to hire you for all future Dingman events to be our moderator. You were fantastic and added so much to the conversation. So thank you. But to take something from what Andre and Audrey said, if there's any students out there that want to take action and start your entrepreneurial journey, there's lots of programs on campus. At the Dingman Center, every Friday, we have entrepreneur office hours. It's called Dingman Fridays. You can just show up and talk to somebody about what you're thinking about your idea, no pitching, no plan, just talking. And also, if you want to see what some of your some students are doing on campus with companies, we have our Pitch Dingman competition coming up on April 26th, where student entrepreneurs will be vying for $75,000 in prize money, and Aurora won several years ago. So I encourage you to see what your fellow students are creating on campus. But thank you again to the panelists, and thank you all the students who came and our supporters. We really appreciate it. And that's it.